Generally speaking, we don't know people. We know people in context. We know them in their roles, and we quickly associate a host of negative or positive judgments with them. Of how many serial killers, for instance, when bodies are found, is it said, Ralph was such a kind family man, or Sally just wasn't capable of that? Something is allowing people to act out of wildly partial knowledge of who people are. As John 18 opens, Jesus asks the angry mob, "Who are you looking for?" They respond, "Jesus of Nazareth," and they literally take a step back and fall to the ground. Whatever the reason may have been for the evangelist, the lesson I take from that is when you follow with your ego, you trip over changes in context. Then, a second time, Jesus asks, "Whom are you looking for?" And he says, "If you are looking for me, let these men go." I don't know about y'all, but when I wake up, the conflicts of the previous day are still rattling around in my head. I can run imaginary scenarios where I'm still engaged in getting my boss to make the necessary changes at work that he's been dragging his feet on. I can have little pretend arguments in my head where celebrating how right I am is really all that's happening. All of that's proceeding at the behest of the part of me that feels the day as a crisis, that longs for control and security. If we're to fully enter into the moment, vulnerability must be acknowledged. Once the precariousness of the moment has been duly noted, laying down the desire for control and the temptations of righteousness, these are both very important. Not because we want ego strokes either, just for the sake of not being an anxious mess. If it's true, we know people in context, then we understand the mechanics of Peter's denials. For Peter, Jesus is largely a source of warmth and positivity. And then all of a sudden, we introduce an angry mob, literally carrying swords and clubs and torches. The mob themselves had to be told who Jesus was. When the way things get interesting skews that negative, that fast, we don't contend with how disorienting that would have been for the apostles. Again, we're back to the serial killer metaphor. You can hear them saying, "The George I knew would never hide bodies 5 deep under his porch." If we get disoriented when seeing Jesus in negative context, how well did we know Jesus? If Peter's first denial was simply a reaction to the chaos itself, we see in his second denial a more exquisite statement of what's going on. He's warming himself by a charcoal fire. He's trying to reconnect with the warmth he associates with Jesus. In his third denial, someone says, "Didn't I see you in the garden cutting off a dude's ear?" I'm paraphrasing here. Surely, Peter's being forcibly deprived of Jesus' warmth, but the situation is also divorcing him from any positive beliefs he has about himself. In my mind, there are 3 dark nights: of the senses, where our comfort is undermined; of the spirit, where our superegoic plans for spirituality are undermined; and of the self, where we're deprived of an ability to act even out of healthy motives. Peter's situation is even worse in that it's bad exteriorly as well as interiorly. The universe handed the Dark Knights boxing gloves, and Peter's been taking it on the chin for 3 rounds. It's not in John that the anonymous disciple runs away naked. In John, senses, spirit, and self are like 3 teeth that get knocked loose whether we like it or not. The teacher says, "My kingdom is not of this world." For one thing, a person who has gone through all of the dark nights no longer cares about what other people care about. Jesus is giving up both the shiny objects and the safety and security they preserve. Jesus has become an increasingly square peg in a world of round holes, and so have his disciples. If that's to be any part of our journey, Jesus wants us to know that it's safe for serene self-emptying amidst emotional uproar to replace acquisition and security as a motivation. Jesus says, "You say I am a king. I just came to tell the truth." Again, I'm paraphrasing. And Pilate asks, "What is truth?" The truth is this: power is only as healthy as its loss is serene. If we freak out when things don't go as we wish, it's a real impairment. But if we can stand still in disempowering situations without the power grab of besmirching others, then the rocks themselves will shout, "Ecce homo," and it'll be no derision this time. In the silence of all things, what once was mockery has flipped and become the purest praise.